Ordinary Time, Week 18, Year C, Sunday, August 3rd, 2025. This is a reflection by Reverend Father Clifford Atta Anim. The readings this Sunday converge on a powerful message, the fleeting nature of material wealth and the spiritual danger of greed. Scripture reminds us that life's ultimate value is not found in how much we acquire, but in how generously we give. Our earthly goods are entrusted to us not for selfish comfort or status, but to be used in the service of others and the glory of God. Koheleth, the author of Ecclesiastes, expresses a somber truth. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. He laments the frustration and emptiness of toiling for wealth that one cannot take into the grave. The text exposes the futility of labor that lacks eternal purpose. A person may spend years amassing riches only to leave them behind for someone who neither worked for them nor values them. This echoes Psalm 49, verse 17. For when he dies, he will carry nothing away. His glory will not go down after him. The responsorial psalm is a sober prayer for wisdom. It acknowledges the brevity of life and pleads with God to teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom, as we hear in Psalm 90, verse 12. In doing so, it calls us to reorient our desires from what is temporary to what is eternal. A hardened heart, deaf to God's voice and blind to others' needs, reflects the idolatry of self. As Hebrews chapter 3, verse 15 warns, "Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts." In Colossians chapter 3, verses 1 to 5 and 9 to 11, we are reminded to seek the things that are above. St. Paul urges believers to fix their hearts not on earthly treasures, but on the risen Christ. You see, greed is not just bad behavior, it is a spiritual disorder, idolatry, because it replaces God with the false god of possession. Paul's list of things to put to death parallels the Ten Commandments and includes disordered desires that corrode the soul. This resonates with Jesus' teaching in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. In Luke chapter 12, verses 13 to 21, we find the parable of the rich fool. Jesus responds to a request about inheritance not with legal advice, but with a moral warning. Take care to guard against all greed. The rich man in the parable is not condemned for being wealthy, but for trusting in his wealth rather than in God. He plans for a long retirement, but fails to plan for eternity. God calls him a fool, meaning senseless, because he ignored the reality of death and judgment. He was rich in possessions, but bankrupt in virtue. The parable challenges us with the question, to whom will it all belong? We must recognize that wealth is a stewardship, not ownership. All that we possess, be it money, time, skills, and opportunities, are gifts entrusted to us by God. Psalm 24, verse 1 declares, "The earth is the Lord's and all it contains." Like the servant in the parable of the talents, we are accountable for how we use what God has given us. Hoarding or wasting resources dishonors the giver. Tithing, almsgiving, and acts of mercy are expressions of gratitude and trust. As Proverbs 19, verse 17 says, "Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord." Combat greed with generosity. Greed is, a subtle idol that can infect even the most religious heart. It often hides behind ambition, caution, or entitlement. But Jesus warned, you cannot serve both God and mammon, as we read in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. The remedy is not poverty for its own sake, but generous detachment, using our possessions for the good of others. St. Basil the Great asked, is not the person who keeps what is his own, but does not give it to the poor, to be condemned as a thief? Be rich in what matters to God. True richness lies in love, mercy, faith, and service. The saints show us that the happiest lives are not the most comfortable, but the most surrendered. Jesus praised the poor widow who gave 2 small coins, as we hear in Luke chapter 21, verses 1 through 4, more than the rich who gave from their surplus. The Church Fathers taught that we are pilgrims and sojourners, as we see in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 11, on this earth, called to invest in the eternal kingdom, not build barns for earthly gain. Reflect daily on the end of life. Memento mori, remember that you will die, was a motto for many saints. This is not morbid but freeing. When we remember the shortness of life, we live more purposefully and love more freely. Sirach chapter 7 verse 36 says, "In all that you do, remember the end of your life, and then you will never sin." The rich fool forgot this, and so he squandered his soul. Store up treasures in heaven. Jesus invites us today to take stock, not just of our bank accounts, but of our hearts. Are we rich in what matters to God? Are we generous with what has been given to us? Do we live with eternity in mind? The gospel does not condemn wealth, but it condemns selfishness. Let us store up treasures in heaven by loving God, serving others, and sharing what we have. God bless you.